Republican and member of the Ways and Means Committee, Congressman Greg Steube joins me. Good evening, sir.
Hey, Greta, how are you?
Very well. So tell me, I want to talk first about the tips. When you sent that bill over to the Senate, I thought that tips weren't going to be taxed. When it came back from the Senate, it appears that there's a cap on it, that the tax-free only goes up to $25,000. Am I right?
Yeah, you're correct. So we sent over, we capped it at how much money you made at $150,000 a year. If you made more than that, then you obviously didn't get the no tax on tips because we're obviously trying to go after a certain worker demographic that's out there in America that Trump supports and wants to support through this bill. When they came back from the Senate, they capped it at $25,000. So you can do no tax on tips up to the $25,000, and then you're capped at that point.
But it seems to me that's not going to make a lot of people very happy. I mean, I don't know how much people make on taxes, but sort of people who make tips sort of really like the no tax on tips business, and then they find out that it gets capped when it gets debated. All right, am I correct on this? Is that if the tax bill is not passed, or if this bill is not passed, at least according to your analysis, that'll be about $3,500 per family on extra taxes?
Yeah, the average family of four is looking at a $3,500 increase per year in additional taxes that they're going to have to pay. 64% of Americans are going to see a tax increase if this bill does not pass. Your small businesses, those that do the 199A deduction, which most small businesses, LLCs do, they're going to see a 20% increase in their federal income taxes. This is huge economically. This is not going to be good for our economy if we allow the largest tax increase on the American people to happen and not pass this bill. That's why it's so important to the president. It's so important to most Republicans to try to get this through the finish line, because it's going to help every American and every American family to be able to do the things that they need to do to support their families.
Part of it is going to raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion, and this is a 10-year bill. What would have been the wisdom or the lack of wisdom in light of the fact that people are so worried about the debt of making this a 5-year bill so that we have sort of a greater control over it instead of, because we can't predict what's going to happen in 10 years, and so much can happen, whether it's natural disaster, war, or anything. Is there some impediment to have made it just a more conservative 5-year period of time so that we could maybe perhaps manage it a little better?
Yeah, I mean, those are all the things that went into the consideration. Obviously, the number would go down significantly, that CBO would score the bill if we went it down to 5 years. We sent over a 10-year bill on the TCJA, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that was passed 5 years ago. And the Senate made that permanent on like the 199A deduction, keeping the corporate rate and making that permanent. All changes that I support, which is what increased the spending on the bill according to CBO. But to remind your viewers, CBO hasn't gotten this right. They didn't score the first TCJA right. They were woefully underscoring the economic impact of this bill. This bill is going to pay for itself through the tariffs that the president's doing and through the economic increase in economic output to the country and the increased revenues to the Treasury. You're going to see the deficit numbers go down because this bill passes. If this bill doesn't pass and taxes go up on the American people, you're going to see the economy go the opposite direction that it's currently going under President Trump's leadership.
Okay, Trump's tax breaks in his first term were not permanent. Am I right?
Correct. It was a 5-year term.
Okay, all right. Okay, so now the idea this time is to make them permanent, but as a practical matter is that the next Congress can come along and make them unpermanent, can raise the taxes. So, I mean, are they really permanent?
No, I mean, that's a good point. A Democratic Congress, if they had the House, the Senate, and the White House, again, they would have to go through this same exercise. Raising taxes on the American people isn't certainly a popular thing to do. So I doubt, even when they did have the House and the Senate and the White House, they didn't move to increase taxes. They just said that they would let TCJA expire, which would then increase taxes on the American people without having to have a vote. But you're right. A future Congress, if one day it's a Democratic House, Senate, and a White House, and they want to increase taxes on the American people, they can do that. So that analysis is correct. We can't decide what future Congresses are going to do, but making it permanent makes it very, very difficult for a future Congress to come in. You've seen how close the margins are with our House majority now. It was the same under Speaker Pelosi. So to have a Democratic House, Senate, and a White House to be able to increase taxes to that magnitude would be a very, very heavy political lift for Democrats.
The bill passed in the House. It went over to the Senate. The Senate made some adjustments, and one we just talked about in terms of the tax on tips cap. Now, with their adjustments, it's now back in the House, and so now you got the problem that you can't lose. You can lose 3 people, the Republicans, or it's not going to pass. Looking tonight in conversations that you've had about how many people are unhappy and likely right at the moment to vote no.
Well, this afternoon around 3 o'clock, there was probably a dozen to 20. That number slowly whittled down. But I still don't think that we have less than four no votes, which is why they've held the votes open right now. So if people are watching what's going on up here, you've seen that there's been an amendment to the rules that's been open for several hours now. The vote has been taken, and if they close that, the amendment will pass. But then we go to the rules package, and I'm assuming, being that we haven't done that, the leadership doesn't want to bring us to vote on the rule until they know that they have the votes. So I don't know at some point if the speaker's just going to say, let's just vote on it and see who's a yes and who's a no. And then the White House is going to continue to work on these people. But right now, it seems as though you've got some pretty hard no's, certainly more than 3, that's preventing the rule from coming to the floor. We can't pass the rule until we see the bill. So we have to pass the rule first and then vote on the bill. So if the rule doesn't pass, then we can't vote on the bill. So that's the current holdup right now.
What do you give someone, like someone says, look, I'm a member of the House, I voted for the unlimited tips. They go over to the Senate and now they put this cap on it. I don't like that. What can you give that person so that person can live with that if that's one of the things that's a sticking point?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I don't like personally about the bill, but the overall bill is very beneficial. I mean, one of the things that we could do is we could amend it and send it back. Obviously, the president doesn't want us to do that because that's not going to meet with his timeline to get it done before July 4th. We could do that, but any changes that we do make, we still have to pass that in the House again. So if we make conservative changes and the moderates in our party don't like it, they might vote no on it, and then we're in the same predicament that we're in now. So making changes to the bill, we'd have to pass it in the House, send it back to the Senate. Then the Senate would have to do that vote-a-rama and all of that, what they've done this past week, which took them a week to 2 weeks to get that done. It obviously significantly delays the timeline, but we could make changes if we wanted to make changes, and it would ping pong back and forth.
It's sort of like herding cats for the Speaker of the House. Congressman Greg Steube, thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, good to see you.